And we just went through this with them over COVID.
Yeah.
We know that when they think they're in the right, they feel entitled to lie about everything. They feel entitled to coerce.
Right.
And so the idea that we're supposed to imagine that our elections are somehow different to them, I can't imagine how that would even work.
It doesn't make any sense, and it's one of those things again that you're forced into agreeing with just out of fear, because people get very aggressive with it. Just like people were super aggressive about the vaccine. You know, I hate seeing people die because they made a poor choice. But there's something insane about how many people were like pro-vaccine advocates that were shaming people and angry at people, and now they're dead. And they're not dead because they ran their time and they got old and they died, and you know it's unfortunate, but it happens to all of us. No, they're dead young, like a lot of people. Not one, not 20. We don't even know what the real numbers are because it's not something the mainstream media covers, because they've all been vaccinated too, and they're probably freaking the fuck out too.
Yeah, it's a huge number of people. We can detect that statistically. The trouble is that it's hard in any individual case to know whether or not you're looking at something that would have happened anyway.
Right.
So you remember John Ritter?
Yes.
From Three's Company?
Sure.
Died of a...
I worked with him.
Ruptured... Oh, you did?
Yeah, did an episode of News Radio with him. Super nice guy.
Good guy? Yeah,
Great
I got that
guy.
impression. Anyway, he died of a ruptured aorta, if I remember correctly, long before there was COVID vaccines.
Right.
So the point is, if that had happened last year,
right,
we'd all be saying, come on.
Of course.
He's in Hollywood, he got vaxxed, and now look at him.
Yep.
So it happens.
100%.
Right? But the rate at which it's happening has changed radically.
Exactly.
And the very people who say, oh, that's not the vaccine, are very uninterested in figuring out what it is. So, you know, let's put two and two together.
Well, they don't even want to consider the vaccine, which is so crazy. If you called it anything else, if it wasn't called the vaccine, if it wasn't for COVID, okay, because COVID became so politicized, and it was like culturally so polarizing. Let's pretend it was for something else, and there was some medication, and the people that were taking that medication were dropping like flies. They would 100% make a correlation, and they would make it publicly, and it'd be in the news. Of course, it might not actually be in the news today, because this is part of the problem with what we're dealing with advertising and the media, is that there's so much revenue that comes from pharmaceutical drug companies that there's just a reality about them reluctant to print or put any stories on television that are negative. There's too much money involved.
Right. There's too much money involved, and it becomes impossible to override this narrative. The narrative takes on a reality of its own, even though it is contradicted by the facts. And our scientific tools they're tremendously powerful at discovering patterns like this. It's not difficult to do,
right,
and yet we deliberately avoid using them in the ways that they were intended.